Hello and welcome to this Last Week in Sin. This is for week 19 of 2017. We're going to go over the most viewed items on the Written Sins network directly on Creators of Written Sins, or the short version of the title site, writtensins.com. These are the 7 top stories in Written Sins for week 19. I am Rob Anderson, the voice of Written Sins. Let's take a look at what you are all viewing, the sinners, the fans, and the creators in week 19. For number 7, we had Dan DeMille's capturing of Spider-Man. Dan DeMille constantly impresses us, constantly doing amazing art and bringing things to life in a unique fashion. Dan DeMille also just opened a printing company that's just beginning. Definitely check out Dan DeMille on our site. We ran an article today about that, actually. It's Valor Printing. It's on Facebook now, and they have their own website, valorprinting.com. Just did a great amount of detail into this. Stunning. The art of dandemille.com is also a good place to go. And the art of Dan DeMille made us no longer fear spiders. Number 6. Now, we got rid of, for those who watched the show before, we got rid of the numbers in between, because I know a lot of people complained that seemed kind of like a stall and it wasn't really worth it. So we're trying it without the numbers in between, which I think will work fine. So number 6, artist showcased, presented by Natalie Menken. Did an amazing job. I mean, she is just a stunning artist. This looks like a photograph. It is not a photograph. That is actually her drawing. That shows skill in itself right there. Like I said, simply amazing, outstanding work. I mean, I remember when I first saw it, I kept looking at it like, is this a picture? Did she superimpose a picture? How did she do that? It was just that stunning. Absolutely impressed by her. You can definitely check her out by clicking right here and become a fan of her, because, I mean, with art like that, how can't you be a fan of her? I know she's going to be for those watching in the Florida area, I believe she said her next stop is going to be in SuperCon. I'll double check, and of course, oh, Natalie's actually here. We're just talking about your art, Natalie. Are you going to be at SuperCon? Or I know you said you might be at Tampa Bay, but are you going to be at SuperCon coming up in Fort Lauderdale? Is that your next stop, Natalie? While she said, much thanks, my friend. Just as we're waiting for that, I'll just go to number 5. I think we'll check that out. Is she actually SuperCon? I can't make it to. Okay, so she won't be at SuperCon. So where's your next stop, Natalie? So as we wait for her to answer that, because I know there's a delay between messaging and actually answering this, we're going to move on to number 5. Number 5 is going to be Last Week in Sin, week 17. This very program continues to make the countdowns, which is awesome, because that means you guys are really watching what other people are looking at, and that's really helping build up other people's fan bases, build up their name recognition. It's an awesome thing. Thank you guys for watching these programs. It makes it worth it to see them actually climbing. And this was like a heavy week of particular viewership from you guys, the sinners, the fans, and the creators. So it's impressive that this actually made it to number 5. I wouldn't have expected it to. And every time I see it, it's an amazing thing. Just for those who were before, we were talking about Natalie. Natalie has nothing official yet, but she's talking about possibly Tampa Bay. I believe Tampa Bay, you're talking about MegaCon, Natalie, not Tampa Bay Comic-Con. She'll get back to us in a second, and we'll go over that. But I remember we talked about going to Tampa Bay Comic-Con, because Written Sins is going to be there. And Natalie said she's going to try to go there, too. So I think that's what she's referring to, not the actual Tampa Bay Comic-Con coming up in about 4 weeks now. Number 4, again, Dan DeMille. Dan DeMille ruled this countdown. And he deserves to. We put this out on Mother's Day because I wanted to go with the Strong Woman, with Wonder Woman that just came out now. Now, this is a few weeks ago. We are a little behind in this. Things come up. Life goes on. You got to catch up. So we're catching up now. So this is back around Mother's Day. We released this on actual Mother's Day. And to give you just an idea of how quickly this rised, Mother's Day is a Sunday. So this was on the actual week countdown for just one day and shot up. And it actually comes close to making the countdown the following week. And we put this out on Mother's Day, and I'll be honest with you, we didn't promote it as much as some other things that we promoted from Dan. And this got it promoted itself. People were sharing it. People loved it. I think people love to see a very strong woman. I think this conveyed a strong woman, because I think that with women, you know, we're in this day and age where, you know, there's this two-sided coin over how to deal with sexuality with women. And I think when it's done artfully and tastefully, you just can see it, you can know it. And I think that's exactly what Dan did with this. I think he did a very tasteful, very very beautiful piece of art, and I think it showed the sexuality of a woman while also addressing the power a woman can have. So I was very impressed by this, and that's why we put it on to actual Mother's Day, because it was an amazing piece of art. And before we move on, and remember, you can visit art of Dan DeMille here. You can go to artofdandemille.com and also check out his new valorprinting.com. Natalie said, for those watching the program, we got it. It's Tampa Bay MegaCon. Yes, not the one in 3 weeks. 4 weeks as of filming this. We're filming this on June 12th. So take that in consideration. Tampa Bay MegaCon is at the end of September. I believe it's the 29th or 30th of September and the 1st of October. So Natalie's hoping to be there. Written Sins will be at the Sinsful Comics table. So we'll be there. Next, for number 3, we have... we have the Cosplayer. This is actually from MegaCon Tampa Bay. Speaking of Tampa Bay MegaCon, this was from last year, the first year of the show. If she represented the Stone Age, we would need a time machine. There was more to it that got cut off. Basically, it was implying that if this is how the girls in the Stone Age look, we'd all want to go back to the Stone Age. I thought that it was a great piece. They wound up doing art. If you go to the link here, or go to our site and just look up Stone Age, you'll see a link to the other picture, and they actually had a picture of her, and on the side of her was an artist who drew her, and we actually took her picture while she was posing, and we got her in a candid moment, which I liked how her eyes wound up looking in this, but we do have another picture where it's a little different, but she was amazing to pose there and have her picture not only taking but drawn at the same time. It was amazing. It was a very great atmosphere at Tampa Bay MegaCon. I can't wait to go back. Number 2 on our countdown, Fetish Babies, issue number 2. Fetish Babies actually made it to the list a couple different spots here. We only counted it at the top spot because I don't want it to be about one thing. Dan DeMille got 2 spots because they're 2 different things. But for Fetish Babies, we were there because of we announced the Kickstarter, which is coming back in the fall. We're very excited about. We want to thank again everyone who has actually backed us and made it possible to go to an issue number 2. So thank you. We were looking for an artist. We found an artist. That was where we were announcing the artist. We also showed the book being printed. It was definitely like, this was also the week where not only we talked about the book being printed, but we talked about how wide of a world, small of a world it was for the Fetish Babies brand, because we had, and with Chris Mads in New York City, me and Alyssa, the co-creators, are in Florida. Satine Zelia is all the way out in Prague. In those who don't know, it's part of the former USSR area. That it's not Russia, but that type of area right around there in northern, I think it's Northern Europe, or it might be Eastern Europe. I don't know exactly which side Prague actually falls on the map. It could be in between. She's from there. We had Carlos Villas, who helped us out with the art of Things to Come, the Kickstarter teaser art. He is from Mexico, so that you just see how far across all of these artists and creators came together. And of course, we also had my good friend Victor Dandridge. Victor Dandridge joined us to make us a great synopsis at the end of the book. To kind of, and I liked it because Victor Dandridge is in no way into the subject matter of Fetish Babies, BDSM, or anything like that. So it was cool to get an outsider to write us something like that and to see their take on it. And he did it so beautifully and all that. I'm not sure I totally believe that he's not fully into it. I just think he's on the DL, as they say, the down low about it. But no, he did, like, kidding around aside, he did just, I mean, fantastic synopsis for us. I was very happy about it. Obviously, very happy. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. Trying to read the messages and the volume went on. I was very thrilled by what he said about it, and I was very touched by it. So that's how. And he's from Michigan. He's actually from Michigan. So that shows you how much this project went across the globe to be made. It literally went across the world. And then the new art team, we're of course going to look to try out, and we have a new artist for the book, obviously, so that changes. The current artist on the book is from Hawaii, so you're already seeing that we're expanding. We're reaching out to certain other artists, trying to get people involved, trying to get people to come join us for some cool art for the Kickstarter, which we're going to be working on the next couple of weeks. Right now, we've been just kind of throwing out feelers and trying to build a presence, and then we're going to go for some cool art. So, I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet. Fetish Babies 2 is going to definitely live up to being the second in the series. And for those who haven't heard, and we haven't like really talked about it much online other than in videos and like this, Fetish Babies will only be a 4-issue. It was never meant to be a long-term series. It was basically what happened is Fetish Babies is based on a book I wrote. It was meant to be a comic, but we wound up going from comic, and I wrote an entire book about it. We almost had that book published, but I didn't like the terms of the deal. But there is actually a full-length novel built on Fetish Babies. And these comics that we're putting out are based on 4 issues that are based on that book that I wrote. And that book, we might publish one day because it'll have more than the comics have, because you can't go you can give a lot more in a book than you can in a comic book. So you might wind up seeing us release that. We talk about when we want to release it. I think we're stalling releasing the book because we don't want any spoilers. We'd rather you read the 4 comics and then go to the book and see more content versus, you know, having that book come out and just beat the comic books out. With that in mind, because we do want to release the book, we're trying to go to Kickstarter in October. That's our current goal. That's why we're here. Then we're going to try to be back for Valentine's Day with issue number 3. So we're not actually going to take our foot off the gas pedal. We're going to go from issue 2 to issue 3. And then because we're going in February, and if everything works out, we hope to be wrapping this up in April. April should be issue number 4, and then we can talk about what's next. Because, like I said, these are based on books. There is a Fetish Babies book, but it's part of a bigger world, which is Barbara's story. And there is a second book. And when you do books, you don't always name them the same thing. You know, like if there's going to be sometimes a theme. Tom Clancy's done this, and many people know that. You don't really, with books, always necessarily keep the same title. Some do, some don't. We didn't. I think there's different phases in how the character's going through and how she's growing. And I think titles will reflect that. And that's why in the very beginning when people talked about Fetish Babies being like this name and people didn't understand the name, the 2 things that really bothered me about people who had like took an issue with Fetish Babies as a name was that they didn't understand that the name itself is a big part of this story because of why it was chosen. And they also didn't understand that it was only temporary, that this name was never supposed to carry on forever. We do have the website for Fetish Babies that will, of course, continue with all the other books. But as we continue on the journey of Barbara, there are there are going to be different titles and it's going to reflect her and where she is emotionally and mentally in her journey. Because this is exactly what we're doing, is we're following her journey as she grows up and discovers more about herself and more about her fetish and what that means about her. So it's going to be an exciting time. So we're very thrilled to be back for Kickstarter in October. We're excited about what the story. We know that everyone's going to like where the story goes in issue number 2, and that's going to lead way to a very strong issue 3 and a very, I won't say much, but I'll definitely say this. For anyone who reads all 4 issues, you're going to get a story. And it's going to be something that's going to be a journey, and it's going to feel like life. meaning there's gonna be moments, and it's not like your typical comic book. There's no bad guy necessarily. This is a comic book more about life, and anything that's about life, there's just ups and downs, and you're gonna see that. And I think, maybe because I'm the writer on the series, maybe I'm being a little egotistical here, but I'll do it. I think it's a fantastic story. I think that for everyone who didn't understand issue 1, I think by the time you're done reading issue 2, 3, and 4, you'll have seen an entire story and you'll truly understand what fetish is and how it affects people and what it takes to have a fetish, and the fact that it's not just this thing that people try on the weekend. I'm not saying there aren't people who try things just for fun, but this book's more about the people who don't try it for fun. This is about the people who do it because it calls to them. So this is also a great way to understand a topic. And that's what one of the things we wanted to do was that if you are a reader and you were just reading it and you were curious about it, even if you don't want to try it, but you just want to know why everyone talks about it so much, that was one thing that we really wanted to talk about in this book and try to explain it. So no matter what you're into, this book will be enjoyable. And I do think by the time we get through issue 4, you guys are going to love it. But it is just a mini series. So we're going to be halfway through in October. And then, of course, next year we'll talk about doing a trade back for anyone who didn't catch up. And we'll put all 4 issues into one as we launch the new series, which we're not going to talk about much until we get to issue 3. And we won't even probably reveal the name until issue 4 and tell you what's next. So you got at least half a year before you'll even hear us start teasing about that. But just between us, because you guys watch these videos, give you some insight like I always do. We're going to go on to number 1. Number 1, okay, this was back at Tampa Bay Comic-Con. Actually, this wasn't Tampa Bay. This was, where was this actually? I don't think this might be Tampa Bay actually. This might have been Tampa Bay. I can't remember right now. Let me see if I wrote it in my notes. No, I'll have to actually go back and look at this. This might have been Tampa Bay. We know her name, this beautiful young lady. We took her picture. We shared it on Written Sins. We did find her through the Cosview search. Cosview who. When we found her, she'd rather remain nameless as far as who she is. She wanted to keep it private. She doesn't have like a fan page. She doesn't do this for that. She does it just for enjoyment. So we're just going to refer to her as the Trooper. People loved her her outfit, loved this cosplay. It was definitely something that was a viral hit on our site. And this is the thing, and I tell people this all the time. I don't control who sees what. I put it on the site, we share it, and what happens next is up to the sinners, it's up to the fans, it's up to the creators, and it's up to the people who are just learning about Written Sins. And when they learn about Written Sins and they see that we celebrate cosplay and all that, sometimes there are things that, and I'm not saying nothing deserves to be viral. Everything we put on the site, I think, has got quality and merit. I'm just saying this one kind of took me by surprise. And I was happily surprised to see how much it had gotten, how many views it had gotten. It just kept going. And it became like, this wasn't even a contest. This was #1 with a bullet this week. And if you remember at the very beginning of this video, I had talked about how this had been a great week for us. There were a lot of people visiting our sites. We had a lot of new users. We had a great user ratio where every user was almost looking at two sites themselves as an average. And you're talking about, we had thousands of visitors this week that we're talking about. So it was a really impressive week. And she won, like, hands down. She's probably a lot of the reason we had some new viewers show up. And it just goes to show you the power of Star Wars and the power of a good cosplay. I mean, no doubt she's a beautiful girl, but she's just wearing a stormtrooper outfit. And just that mix of doing it right with cosplaying, it doesn't always mean that you have to go too much. Sometimes it's the outfit, and I really think the outfit was stunning in this. I know she's part of a charity organization that go around from cons to cons. Don't remember which one. If it was at Tampa Bay, I want to say it's the 501st, but I might be wrong about that, but I do know that they all dress up, and she's part of it, and she'll do it to raise charity funds. So when you guys see the stormtroopers at events and all that, and you see them at a booth, remember when you're taking a picture with them, a lot of those groups do this for free, and they do it to help raise money to bring cures or address a certain need. So if I ask anything for this particular cosplayer, and I know that if she sees this, she'll agree with it, it is to support charities. And remember that it's also our job as human beings to support each other when we need to, because we're all humans and we all have bad moments. Our next and most important question of the day is, are you one of us? If you are tired of the reboot culture, you love cosplay and new creative worlds, then you are one of us already. And as such, isn't it time you subscribe to our site and satellite groups and pages on Facebook and YouTube channel to stay up to date with all the new creative cool stuff coming out of the indie comic market and other cool stuff? It's time that you became one of us. Subscribe today to Written Sins and become one of us. That has been this week. This was week 19 of 2017. We'll have more content coming as always. Thank you for joining us on the program today. It has been fun going through this week. It was a couple weeks ago to remember, like, this was pretty cool. And one of the cool things about these programs, and I really do enjoy, is the fact that when I look back at this, it's kind of like I remember, like when you write a comic book, there are parts in it you remember what you and your team were going through at that particular moment. Sometimes these videos actually make me remember what I was personally going through and what the site was going through and the cool stuff we were doing or not. And I just remember this being like a really cool kind of week. So it was nice to go back and check it out and remember a good week. And it was a fun week, and it was definitely an interesting week. We saw a lot of cosplay taking off and returning to the countdown after a few weeks of missing. It's always nice to see my creation, Fetish Babies, getting so much attention. I actually feel bad a little bit at how much attention it gets sometimes. I know that sounds stupid, but I also, I want to promote a lot of you creators and the cosplayers. I just don't want to talk about my shit. That's not what Written Sins is about. And, Written Sins I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of what we did. So I don't always like talking about my stuff. I'd rather talk about your stuff. So keep giving us things that we can help promote and help build you build your name recognition. So thank you for all viewing, showing up, and sharing. Look forward to the next Kickstarter talk, which, by the way, I just wanted to take a quick minute and tell you guys about this cool new feature. Kickstarter talk is now going to be on every page. So even if you go to our main page, which we'll quickly look at right now, you'll notice that the most current episode of Kickstarter talks now on our main page and very easy to find. We're going to continue doing that to help the actual Kickstarters get the energy they need. Now, we could expand this to add maybe Kickstarter last week. So we could put, I think, up to 2 or 3 videos here. We're going to see. We'll see about it. If you guys think we should add a couple more videos, let us know. Also, one thing we were asking this week was about other videos that we're going to do. And I'm going to continue this conversation on Facebook. YouTube, audience, you've been great. If you want to join the conversation for a few minutes, join us over on Facebook, where we're going to talk a little bit more. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next Last Week in Sin.